Like, what would your growth organization or UA organization look like? And what would you prioritize? What would be you deprioritize? And overall, what are the key differences of operating your growth team today versus what it was just a couple of years ago?
So I think, firstly, I mean, we have to acknowledge the efficiency economy that we're in right now. And I think, there've been so many layoffs also on the UA side. So I think we're doing more with less. So I think, we have fewer people doing these roles and being asked to do more. So my first kind of thought is like you should really simplify as much as you can and focus on doing fewer things and doing them well. However, that doesn't necessarily translate to kind of the creative side of things. And I think the creative side of things is really a focus on doing as much as possible and getting as much diversity as you possibly can in kind of your creative mix. Because you really need to fuel these ML machines with as much creative as possible to really allow them to pick the winners. And so if you think about how you set up an organization, I think, you need to simplify it as much as you can, have creative work very closely with your UA team. It really should be part of the team, not kind of a separate organization. Obviously, depending on the size of the organization, but really creative and UA should be side by side. And really build an organization that really builds a creative generating machine, because creative is really the only lever that teams have now. So that really is the last frontier of UA is on a day-to-day basis is really creative. And so how do you build a creative machine that builds concepts and ships creative at scale is kind of the question there.
Yeah, I can jump in here maybe. So I think one of the biggest false conceptions in UA is like, I just got to find that channel. It's just like, maybe there's that I'm going to keep testing channels and we get a totally different result. You're not. Like, if UA is going to fundamentally work or it's going to fundamentally not. And it's a combination of creative, which Paul really focused on, and product is the two biggest levers. To the question, Mishka, of like how to kind of optimize and lean teams out, or how we're thinking about that. We literally cut our UA team in half, which might sound crazy for a UA business where our actual book of business is growing. But we retooled the team, and this kind of ties back to what we were talking about earlier of how these algorithms are getting stronger and stronger. The person pulling the levers is an increasingly small part of the puzzle. Like it's 10%. So we didn't reduce the overall team size. We reorged the team, and we put about half the team on what we call like the growth strategy team, which is basically like cross-functional operators working with product, working with admon, working with creative, and just doing little stuff that falls through the cracks, like data governance. I have to watch my words carefully here. There was a large acquisition that happened in somewhat recent history, where when the dust settles, the games were wildly undervalued because of a data governance issue. The UA was missing, call it 90% of the revenue because of a simple data governance issue. So it's just weird stuff like that. That's like, it's not specifically the UA person's job. It's not specifically the CEO's job. It just falls through the cracks. It's not the person building the dashboard's job. And so us just putting part of the team on just sort of like this cross-functional kind of like SEAL team to find like, why isn't growth working? What can be improved? That's how we've reorged. And the thing that we've almost completely eliminated, and I think the worst job in performance marketing right now, is BI or analyst. Like, because this, with the technology we have now, leveraging AI, or we just built like plug and play reporting. Every company needs the same reports. Every company wants the same forecasting. So we have that like fully automated. Like we sell it. Show my bag for 1 second. Like we have like, it's like basically $1,500 a month to like replace all of your BI and analytics. Like it's a commodity now. So I think that is probably one of the worst roles to have and one of the easiest things to optimize, because there's, even if you don't want to leverage third-party tool, you can just use AI to like look at your data and provide insights, provide views. So what we're not reducing and increasing focus on is creative, exactly as Paul said. Like that is the product that marketers are putting in the world. Like that can almost always use more love, more TLC. So increase resourcing for creative, increase cross-functional growth work, decrease lever pulling, decrease BI, analyst functions.
And I think the important point to note on the lever pulling is there's just no levers to pull anymore.
I think that in UA, the thing that I've seen teams most reliably do to cause success is to break down all of the key tasks into individual pieces and focus on creating ultra fast feedback loops. Ultimately, every team is incredibly scaled in their UA. We're all running experiments super fast, and we're all like CPI is going up for two reasons. One, because of inflation and margins and stuff like that, but also because game LTVs are going up. There's a constant arms race of just how good things are getting. And so the faster you can help your team iterate, that's on creative, on LTV predictions, and on products, the better. And so on one hand, that means those teams collaborating, but on the other hand, that means unencumbering those feedback loops and breaking down layers of approvals to maximize how fast those loops can turn around. Because really, you're trying to figure out how to make the most gains you can, and create a gap between you and your competitors.
Yeah, this is going to be a weird one. It's just top of mind because we just did it. I would say actually do an exercise in time tracking for your growth team and find the low value work. I think it's going to be a little different for each team, but probably for a lot of teams, what you're going to find is it's something like building spreadsheets or building reports, something like that. There is a lot of low value work that exists in organizations just because that's the precedent that's been set. That's step one. Step two is like give your team some non-zero engineering resources, either internally or through third party, to solve for that. So that's the number one thing we usually see when we come into an organization. There is usually just some sort of archaic bloat of process that's not adding any value, but taking up a lot of people's time. And just identifying that we have so much, we've never had more tools available to automate and remove that low value work, but it takes someone to identify and push to change that process. And that's true for growth, but you can kind of apply it to other aspects of business as well. But start with time tracking.
Really simple and effective. That's a good call. Paul?
Yeah, I think Warren and Josh kind of gave similar answers in terms of efficiency and feedback loops. I think that's the common theme here. I would just kind of add just a real focus on creative and ensuring that you've got an optimal machine to generate creative concepts and basically double down on the ones that are working. So, efficiency is key, but, if you wanted to overinvest anywhere, it would be on the creative side because it's probably the biggest lever you have. But, yeah.
Beautiful.
Agreed.
Well, thank you so much for very actionable advice on how operators can upgrade themselves and upgrade their organizations in 2025.